Okay, good
This
evening.
meeting is being recorded.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to yet another edition of Startup Grind's Fireside Chats. Today we are speaking to Tumelo Mochesane. Hi, Tumelo. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you, Wanga?
I'm great, thanks. Thank you so much for actually, giving us your time. We're still waiting for some people to jump onto the call. Let's probably give it another like 2 minutes or so. And once things get going, you can feel free to take over. I know you do have an exciting talk prepared for us, and we do appreciate that. And once you are ready, you can feel free. I see Brian has now joined. Welcome, Brian. How are you? Expect to be put on the spot at any time in this call, guys. I did say earlier that we are, part of the Startup Grind community, Startup Grind Kimberley specifically. And when we say Kimberley, we do refer to the wider Northern Cape, just to sort of give an indication of what we're trying to do this year is, and I've been sharing with some people, that this year one of the goals is to have more events that are just raising awareness around entrepreneurship, monetizing your time, starting a business, side hustles, and just being able to see all the opportunities that are particularly in the Northern Cape. I'm just gonna ask everyone to please mute themselves. Thanks, guys. Yeah. So that's one of the goals that we're going to be working towards this year. And our other goal is going to be actually having structured content, right? And our structured content is going to have the goal of preparing you, members of our community, and potential, business magnets, potential unicorn founders. We're going to prepare you to actually be able to apply for the Google Black Founders Fund. And that is an annual fund targeting startups in Africa that are run and started by Black founders. And this funding is about $3 million that you would actually have the potential to apply for. Earlier on, I was speaking to Melo before the session started, and I shared with him how there's also the Impact Catalyst, which was actually launched in Kimberley in the Northern Cape last year, September, October, and their funding range was between 250,000 US dollars and 25 million US dollars. So the Impact Catalyst is actually formed by the different mining houses in South Africa, the bigger mining houses, who have actually come together to establish somewhat of a CSI and a what's the word, supplier development sort of initiative or program. So these are some of the things that are already there that are available to you. And we just want to make sure that you are one, also aware of them, but two, you actually grabbing these opportunities, you actually applying, you actually reaching out to people. And what makes us capable of doing that is, well, myself, Wanga Mbasa, I am an engineer by training, but I've spent quite a number of years in strict sales. So these are the type of things that we want to actually instill in you guys as entrepreneurs, where we understand, being in the tech space, sometimes you might focus on wanting to have a idea, but the reality is you don't need to have a business idea. You need to have a business, as in you need to have the ability to be able to sell something. You know the old adage of "sell me this pen." That's where it starts. So I know from experience and having seen, different communities in the tech space, a lot of people want to have that new next $1 billion app or this great idea to change the world. But I want to teach you guys this year that, just start selling something. I mean, you would know in Kimberley, one of the popular business magnets. Hopefully one day we'll actually get to sit with him, Mr. Pikwan, who's the founder of Pikwane Diamonds. He started selling peanuts. These are the type of stories we actually grew up hearing, that the first thing that he started selling was peanuts, and that moved on eventually up to diamonds. So these are the type of narratives we actually want to share, because the reality is, guys, the startup playbook, you could say, in Africa is not the same as a startup playbook in the US or in the West, where you have an idea and you're at varsity or in college and
Pitch
you have
it.
this idea, you work on it in your dorm room, you drop out of school, next thing you have a unicorn of a company. We know that the reality has to do with you finish that degree because you don't have a choice. You pay your black tax, you go into employment, you brave into the world of business by leaving employment, you get burned, you go back to employment, but this time wiser. There's stories where people have had to dig into their retirement savings to start their businesses. There's just so many narratives that we also trying to document, and this is one of the main reasons why we have what for the sake of putting this in there, a son of the soil, a proud Kimberlite, that is Tumelo Mochesane. So I'm just gonna ask him to take over, and yeah, this is just him telling us about how to make entrepreneurship real and practical. Take it over, Tumelo. Thanks, man.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Wanga. I think good evening to everyone who's joined in. I'll switch to a little slide deck that I've prepared. It won't be more than 10, 15 minutes, and then I'm sure, Wanga, we can go into any further detail on specifics around any of the startups I've been involved in and the like.
Yes.
Yes. I think, yeah, there's still seat. Okay. Is everything okay? Can everyone see the slide?
Yes, perfectly.
Oh, good.
Thanks.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so thank you again. I really appreciate the opportunity to sort of share the little experience I've gained over the past few years, trying out different things. And thank you also for calling me son of the soil, man. It's such a nice thing to be called when you come from here. So I'm a proud Kimberlite, as many of you might have already read. I matriculated from Kimberley Boys in 2009 and went on to study industrial engineering. So left Kimberley for Pretoria. Had a good run as an industrial engineer at Africa's largest trailer manufacturer called Afrit, where I worked as an industrial engineer and later as a quality engineer. Really enjoyed my time in manufacturing. Immediately after that, I went into the taxi industry, surprisingly enough. And whenever I tell people that I work in the taxi industry, they're always surprised and like, hey, what's an engineer doing in the taxi industry? But that was my first exposure to actually the world of software development, and I worked there as a business analyst. Had a good run as well, and immediately after went into financial services. So I've done quite a few things in financial services. Again, had the honor of working for the biggest guarantee provider on the continent. Called it's a company called Lombard. Very great place to be. But that's when my journey into full-time entrepreneurship really started. I was blessed enough to have a good friend and partner who convinced me, although it didn't take much convincing, but yeah, he sort of talked me into doing this thing full-time, and we had an opportunity that we could jump on, and that's how I got into this. And yeah, that's basically what I've been doing for the past 8 or so years. I've sort of always switched between one of three things. I've always either been an engineer, an entrepreneur, or a mountaineer. And I think that sort of segues quite nicely into why I want to speak about making entrepreneurship real, because of the experiences I've had as a mountaineer, climbing different mountains, hiking different trails. You learn a lot, and I think there's so many parallels that can be drawn between that and our journey as entrepreneurs. And what happens a lot of the time, which frustrates me often, is throughout this journey as an entrepreneur, I've been through different programs, and I spent some time with Seed Academy, with Hack Josie in Joburg. There was a way to project as well, and there's all these entrepreneurship programs or these incubation sort of hubs, and the message is always the same. The message, you get taught to you do the SWOT analyses, you write the business plan, or or you get taught how to have an elevator pitch, or you compile that elevator pitch. But the reality is, in the Northern Cape, where will you, if you're honest with ourselves, where will you actually use an elevator pitch? We just don't have the types of environments where we can do those things often enough. So what we need to be learning is slightly different. And Wanga alluded to how entrepreneurship and the startup space in Africa or South Africa is different to in the US or in the West in general. I'd even go further and say the startup space in the Northern Cape is completely different to what young startups and young entrepreneurs are doing in Joburg and Cape Town, for example. So it's something I feel very strongly about, making things real and practical, because that's just the person I am. But I mentioned earlier, I was blessed enough, fortunate enough to summit Kilimanjaro back in 2016, just a few weeks after, unfortunately, Gugu Zulu passed away. So it was a very scary thing to do that soon after such an incident. But we summited nonetheless. And in the lead up or the build up to that, obviously you do a lot of preparing, and you make sure that all your gear is packed. And the same way as when you're preparing for a long hike or a long excursion, you're making sure you've got all the right trainers or your right socks, the correct layers, even food. It's very much the same with a business. You don't go into a business or want to start a bakery and not have a decent chocolate cake recipe or have some tools that will help you in your business. And for us in the Northern Cape, especially, when you're starting up a business, a lot of the time you will not have funding. You will not have cash you can use to spend on getting certain things done on your behalf or for you. So it's very important that we equip ourselves with tools such as Canva. Make your own logo, make your own marketing material in Canva on a free account. Learn to do these things, because at the beginning, chances are you can't pay someone to do it for you. Learn to build a website on Wix or WordPress. These are all things that once you've done the figuring out and understanding whether or not you have a business on your hands, how do we get this thing out there? These are things that you're going to need to do or come across at some point, and it's good to be able to do them yourselves. If you want to be selling on online, for example, with one of my other businesses, or another business that we started, we had an online store for about a year, and we built that online store ourselves on Shopify as a platform. We use Yoko at markets when we do card transactions. So it's very important that you have these things, these tools that all form a part of your arsenal as an entrepreneur when you start in your journey. I've got a few others. I'm sure Wanga will share these slides if they will be useful to anyone afterwards. But I've got a few other things up there, like obviously BizPortal, know how to register your business, what is required for you to be an operating concern in this country. Put up Udemy, keep learning. You need to know what you're selling or the industry you're in. Keep learning, empowering yourself so you don't get left behind. So yeah, that's just one thing that I could link directly with my preparation phase for Kilimanjaro with what I've seen, I've had to do time and time again in the different businesses that I've started or tried starting. And just to get back to my Kilimanjaro experience back in 2016, I had packed all this gear, had gotten to the airport. My girlfriend at the time wished me well with my friend, and I was off. And lo and behold, I arrived in Tanzania the next day or the next morning. And at the airport, realized that my luggage was in Kenya. So all my gear, all this effort that I was very well prepared for this trip, and my hike was due to start the very next day, and all my gear was in another country. The airline couldn't really help. It was just a wait and see, and it was quite a mess. And sometimes in business that happens. And we mentioned earlier that a lot of the time you might come out of corporate or leave your job to pursue a life in business or pursue some business idea you might have, and things don't really work out the way they do. And now here you are, you've left your job, you don't have a salary anymore. It's just this mess you find yourself in, and it's quite difficult to be there. But when that does happen, it's good to know that this is actually it happens to most of us. It happens to most of us. It happens to the best of us. It's at that point that you need people around you to help you through that mess. I was fortunate enough to have my gear delivered to me that same night, quite late that day actually. And I was still able to start my hike on schedule as planned, which was great. Quite a relief. So despite all that stress and that trauma, we were able to get things off the ground despite that rocky start. And we went into this thing. The first day of our hike, I did the Machame route. So Machame, basically you go through the actual village on the foothills of Kilimanjaro, Machame. And right behind there, you have annoyingly wet moisture that just keeps coming and it's relentless. And yeah, we know it's called the rainforest because yeah, chances are it does rain a lot. You don't really get it until you're there and everything is getting wet and you're frustrated. And it really sucks being there. And it's just day one. um, and I remember at the time pulling out this a poncho I had gotten I think at Cape Union Mart or something, but it was a glorified piece of plastic, almost like a garbage plastic bag. Yeah, this thing now, this is really all I've got, and I've got to hike 5 hours in this rain, and it is really difficult. And that happens in business as well. Like you start, you in it, you just at the beginning of your trip, and it's just not working out. You're getting rejection after rejection. There's unsuccessful applications, failed bids, the market's just not performing like you think it is. And just from my own business experience, for example, we've applied to so many opportunities for funding or any assistance, let alone funding, and you get constantly rejected, or you either you're just not a good fit for the time, or there'll be so many things that happen that just feel like this thing is not working and it really sucks. And interestingly enough, only 6% of SMMEs in South Africa report getting government support. So that's not a whole lot of businesses getting funding from government. So maybe we shouldn't be chasing it so hard. It's also a very difficult thing to do to be in business. I mean, 50% of SMMEs or small businesses fail within 2 years in South Africa. And only 0.33% of the world's population becomes entrepreneurs every year. So it's really difficult, but knowing how difficult it is at the beginning, when you're there, when it really sucks and you're wet and you're tired and there's mud all over you, it's good to know that you just need to keep talking to people, keep knocking on doors, calling, getting out there, trying. And eventually the successful applications do come through. Depending on your industry, you will eventually get that vendor number. You will secure that first deal. The market might switch or might swing in your favor, or you might pivot your business, and that Excel spreadsheet with your projections will finally sort of make sense for what's actually happening around you. And this whole journey and this whole time, you're doing all these things, and you find that you are alone. This is your journey. There's no one else along with you. Sure, you might start with a big bang, and all your friends and family will be there to cheer you on. But with time, the reality is you're the one that needs to wake up and do the work, put in the work. And if you come from a corporate environment, all of a sudden that corporate ladder you didn't want to climb now looks so enticing. Your friends are getting fancy mercs and you're not quite there yet. You don't have a clear work schedule. It's just it's a very lonely thing to go through. And it's very important when you're going through this journey to have people or someone who understand the journey you're on, and more than that, believes in the journey you're on. And I've found that makes a world of difference. On Kilimanjaro, I think on the third day actually, third or fourth day, 2016 sometime back, we go through an alpine desert. So it's the weirdest thing. You've just gone through a rainforest, 2 days of dry and arid. There's nothing and no one there. And it was probably the second loneliest I've ever felt in my life. It's such a quiet place too. And what had happened on that day is I was quite fit back in 2016. Those of you who might who know, see pictures from back then and now know I've put on some weight, but I was quite fit and very well prepared for that trip. So what would happen is my guide and I would leave at least an hour or so before the rest of the hikers would. So I'd oftentimes be on the trail with porters, which are the locals who help guides and who are part of climbing teams, getting gear up the mountain and down the mountain. So oftentimes I'd be on the mountain an hour and a half ahead of the other groups with just porters around me and maybe a guide or two. And I remember just after lunch, we had sat down in this alpine desert and I'd looked back and it was dry and there's not even a breeze. There was nothing. It was quiet. And the silence there was just a deafening type of silence. And I think that's the kind of thing we go through sometimes as entrepreneurs, that you really become alone at times. And it's important to find someone who understands and believes in you. Just as there, I had guides who understood what I was going through, who knew exactly what was happening, and who believed in me. And we made it through the day. It was quite a difficult day. And funny enough, it wasn't even the most difficult day we'd go through. So what had happened, what happens that at the end of that day is you reach base camp. And base camp, I think, is in business terms, it's where you're operating now. You've gone through all that loneliness. You've gone through the frustration of being a startup that isn't making money, and you figured out what you need to do, and now you just need to show up and shine. And how that happened for us was, or for me on the mountain at least, was we were at base camp, and that the next day of hiking is the longest day you will have on the trip. It's the hardest day too, and it starts around 11:30 at night. And you're hiking in this, it's the steepest section of mountain you go up. It's also the most difficult because the air is just so thin. Um, you there's nothing to see, nothing to hold on around you. You're just putting one foot in front of the other, step by step, and trusting the process that you will eventually get to the top. It's so difficult up there. You're literally dragging your feet. You don't have the strength to just lift your foot. So you're literally dragging your feet up. And in business, it's much the same. The late nights start to wear on you. There's only so much cold calling you can do before it starts just feeling like it's not working and it's not getting anywhere. And what I've found there was we just kept going. You just put one foot in front of the other. And in a business sense, you just keep going. And you listen to the more experienced hikers and the guides, and they'll tell you what to do. An example of them telling us what to do, for example, on the night before, I had ginger tea, and many guides on the mountain will tell you to have ginger tea the day before summit attempt because it helps with blood circulation and to prevent blood clots. So you listen, you take that advice, and you do what they say you should do. Another crazy thing they tell you to do or advise you to do that night or that morning when you start hiking is to store your bottles, your water bottles, upside down in your backpack, because on the way up they literally freeze. And lo and behold, I think it was 2 hours into that 8-hour hike or 9-hour hike, what's in my bottles had frozen, and luckily it was upside down, so I could still have a little bit of it when I needed it. So in business, it's much the same. Listen to people who have done what you're trying to do. Listen to your clients. More importantly, see where the opportunities lie in their businesses and in yours, and pivot if you must. So with pivoting, what that basically means if you're getting feedback, whether it's positive or negative feedback, or the market is just swinging in a particular direction, don't be afraid to slightly change your direction. Don't be afraid to change your direction, um, and go where you need to go, because that's how you'll get ahead. On that stretch of mountain, um, at night around 1 a.m. now, you've probably hiked 2-3 hours. Um, it just becomes steeper and steeper, and it's so steep that the switchbacks are so tight. So those of you that might have seen roads, maybe these winding roads up mountains that like the car just doesn't drive up, like they go left and right and left and right all the way to the top. It's much the same at this stretch, and that's what pivoting is about. Sometimes you just walk to the left, now you need to turn right and walk in the same direction, in the opposite direction, but you've gained a meter in height. Sometimes you even gained half a meter only in height, and you're walking past the trail you just made now. It feels awkward, but that to me is what pivoting is about. You need to go where you need to go in order for you to get to where you want to go, where you want to get to. And the last thing is just focus. Like when you're pivoting and you're listening, you need to focus. You don't lose your focus, because you could fall on a mountain, right? And people don't realize, as much as Kilimanjaro of the 7 summits is the flattest, and it's really just a casual hike compared to the others. But you could literally roll down the mountain. So if you don't focus your efforts and your energies, and know what it is that you actually want to do in your business or for your business, or the solution that you're solving, all the pivoting and all the listening will help. And that's basically how it all. And I think it was around around 6 a.m. We had made it to summit, and it was probably a very proud moment. There was some cell reception there. I think I tried to make a phone call. I took a couple of pictures, and that's easily the most tired you will be, and yet you've got all this energy because you're just happy. There's just driving force behind you, and it's the same. You would have done all this work in your business, and then you just land that deal or that major account, or have that first run of steady sales, and it just gives you an energy to go on. But the difficulty with that, or the danger with that I've learned in my journey as an entrepreneur, was when we started Afrikan Time, the watch brand. We had our stock. We started selling. Online sales, I think, were not doing too great. Social media either. We had a few sales strategies that just weren't working, and we decided that, okay, cool, we'll start attending markets. Some of you might know Brown Sands Market in Joburg, and we were fortunate enough to be a vendor there. I think quite early on, we grew with the whole community around Brown Sands, and that was a great feeling. We money was coming in. We were in business. We were all in business to make money. We were not profitable yet, no, but hell, there was something coming in. People were trusting us with their money and taking a product or service off of our hands. But the danger with that was, we could have said, we now have sales, we can relax, we can just keep attending a few markets here and there, make a few sales, and that can be it. In any business, you run the risk of being complacent. And there is such a point on your way to the summit, to Kilimanjaro, where people, I guess not all people can blame, we can't always blame complacency, but there are times where it could be avoided. You could just push yourself a bit further. So you'll see at the bottom right-hand corner, I've got a bit of a schematic there. There's one summit, obviously, which is Uhuru Peak, which is where everyone wants to get to. But about 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on how fast you're hiking, there's a point on the mountain, on the rim, called Stella Point. And Stella Point, you'll see there's a picture above that schematic there, even has its own sign. And after that grueling hike, and it's normally where people stop to just rest, catch a breath before that last 40-minute stretch, which is also just as grueling because the air is really thin. Many people make it to Stella Point, they take their pictures there and they turn back because they've made it far enough. They don't need to go any further than this. They can see the summit, but they've been here and they're too tired to carry on. And in any case, if I go home and I've only made it to Stella Point, back home, no one else back home in my circle of friends has been here anyway. So I've done well enough. And that's where many people stop. In business, we tend to do the same. After you've sold that first watch, you don't call your client and say, hey, how's the watch? What can we improve about our experience? We ran a mobile restaurant. It's once you've sold that plate of food at a market, walking to your client or your customer an hour later and asking them how the meal was. That's going the extra mile. That makes a difference between Stella Point and reaching Uhuru Peak. You need to be able to impress even when you don't have to. So that's something that I've learned and that I think even myself now in current projects, I still fail to do from time to time. And compiling this was a big reminder for me to keep pushing past Stella Point because I think a few of our businesses are at their Stella Point at the moment. And repeating, like what we do, you need to do over and over and over and over again, in my opinion, to be successful at it. You need to sell the peanuts and then sell the fruits and sell the vegetables and sell insurance. Like you need to do these things over and over again in different ways to attain any level of success, in my opinion. It does not come very easily, hence the need to repeat it. But what I've found is the more you repeat it, the easier it becomes, the more confidence with which you attack the next business opportunity or the idea. And I think any of my friends or people in my close circles will tell you, I'm always thinking about the big idea, the next big idea. I'm always bouncing something off of someone. It tends to become a bit embarrassing at times because you're like, yo, this idea is barely lukewarm and I'm already jumping onto the next one. But I think that's very necessary. And this picture I put up here is literally what it looks like after about an hour of hiking down the mountain. So I reached summit at around 6:30, just before 7. And I was at the summit for 15, 20 minutes. I had no interest in staying any longer. I've been here, I've done it, I've taken my pictures. I'm on my way down and the bug had bitten. I wanted to chase as many of the 7 summits as I could. And this is literally the walk down from the summit. And on this walk, I was already planning, hey, maybe I should go to Russia and do Elbrus, or maybe I should do this mountain next. We need to constantly innovate and think about the next big thing when we're in business. And yeah, I think that's basically my bit of experience that I just want to share with you, or all those in attendance today. I know we're probably going to have a fuller conversation or chat on other things, but that's just the general idea, the journey that I wanted to share today with how I think if you can draw a direct connection or line between what someone has experienced and what you're about to experience, and it becomes real. You know how far you are on this journey. You know how far you need to go. Then your chances of success are slightly better. And you know that this thing is actually possible. It's not just some pie in the sky idea for only the brave, crazy people who leave their jobs to pursue a life of entrepreneurship. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, ne. Hey man, you like, I don't even know how to, man, you took us to the peak, bro. Like literally,
Yeah, to Uhuru Peak.
now we're there, man. Like wow, we're literally feeling the struggles, man. The air was getting thin, bro.
Yeah, it's
Man,
rough. It
no,
really, it
thanks.
really does get rough, and it's really scary as well. And remember, we had
Mm,
my attempt was just two and a half weeks after Gugu Zulu had passed away, trying to do
mm.
the same thing. It really is scary, and in business the same. Like you go and try up something, and you can know at least 5 stories of people who have tried businesses and they failed, and you're like, hey, is this thing that I'm trying going to work out? But you keep going, you push on.
Hey man, like, and that really ties directly to your journey in business. I mean, it's African Time, the Smoking Hog, Memsys, and you having gone through that experience of Kilimanjaro actually paints a clear picture why you could also go through the journey of starting those businesses. And that's actually what I'm gonna ask you to share with us, maybe 2 minutes on each on um, how it is that you basically summited the peaks of those businesses, starting I just forgot the name of the forest that you mentioned, going through the
Oh,
rainforest for each of those. So take us through your rainforest experience for your three
yeah.
businesses.
Yeah, okay. So I'll start. Time was an awesome project. We really loved it. And it was quite an exciting journey to go on. And how it started was with African Time. We had this idea. Actually, we went home and asked for some money for some seed capital, and we got it. We went through a design process, and here we had this product. Um, and mind you, with African Time, I don't think we've read through the Alpine Desert on our own, stopping and starting in there. But the journey with that particular project has really been great. We hit our first few markets, stock in hand, and the reception was really phenomenal. We weren't really ready for that. Within a year of establishing African Time, we were invited to SA Fashion Week, where we were able to showcase our products. So that was really great, but it hasn't always been great. The reality is, since 2020, we haven't sold a single watch. And we can sit and blame African Time, and we can sit and blame that on the pandemic, but in reality, it's probably because I've shifted focus as an entrepreneur to other projects, and we need to revive it. So these are the things that do happen in our businesses. And yeah, we've that business, I think, is yet to do amazing things. We've had good media coverage in the past, and we need to just get back on board with that. That was purely started by myself. Had the help of obviously family lending me some money to invest in stock. And yeah, so many years later, 4 years later, I still need to move a lot of that stock, but it will move. With I think the Smoking Hog, that was a passion project of my now wife and I's. So we're big foodies. We love to eat different things program. And yeah, we started that business off actually with a clear idea of what we wanted to do. We were fortunate enough. I stayed in Sosha at the time, and I was able to buy an old caravan. I picked it up for like 2,000 rand, I think.
Yeah, that's a good deal.
Yeah, it was dirt cheap. It was a very old classic caravan. Picked it up for like 2,000 rand. Had another friend of mine, and yeah, my now wife, my friend, and I worked on that on weekends. Refurbished it, built a smoker ourselves from an old geezer, and yeah, we started smoking meat. Our first market was actually here in Kimberley. We did the market at Flamingo. We've had great success there. I think we were there 3 or 4 times. So yeah, 2 or 3 times. I'm not too sure on the specifics. Yeah, that was really a passion project, and we learned so much through that journey. Like we that's where I learned. Sure, I'd arrive at a market, and people were selling wings or worstros, and they just basically started cooking an hour ago. And by the time I arrived at the market at 8 to start my day's work, I had been smoking for the past 12 hours already. So that if you don't have work ethic, if we didn't have work ethic, the Smoking Hog definitely taught us work ethic, and just yeah, getting up and doing what you need to do when you need to do it. And then the last one you mentioned was Memsys. Memsys,
Yes.
a very interesting business. very exciting business. It's a tech company that I'm running full time now, and I'm really hoping to grow this tech company into a
I think we're just losing you there, Tumelo.
in the Northern Cape. How we started is was short form. So now, yeah.
Yeah,
Is it
no,
better
you're
now?
fine now. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
perfect.
So with Memsys, the name actually Memsys is derived from the software we were selling at the time. So we were actually I was still working in the taxi industry in a BA environment with software developers, and I got a few.
We're losing you again.
This piece of software that I thought I was going to sell, and we built a member management. I think okay.
Yeah. So the last part I got is when you said
Sorry
you
about
were
that,
in the
Wanga. I
text.
think is it better now?
Yeah, it's good now.
Okay.
Yeah. It may also be
Okay.
on my side. Apologies for that also. Yeah, the last thing we got was that you were in the taxi industry.
Okay. So yeah, I was in the taxi industry working as a business analyst. So basically very close to software developers. And I somehow convinced one of them to help me build a member management system that we call Memsys. And we were going to sell this thing and become millionaires in the next 12 months. Obviously, that didn't happen. Yeah, it was that thing. You've got this brilliant idea. It's a solution that's going to solve people's problems, and it will sell. We marketed for about 2 years to different political parties and unions, and didn't sell at all. Didn't sell a single license. And it was a very frustrating time. It's like, yo, well, we're trying this thing, but it's not working out. And I know it's necessary. I know these people need it, but they're just not buying it. And then that's when we decided to pivot. So the business then Memsys, which was the name of a piece of software, became the business's name. We became a tech company providing a wider spread of solutions for clients in different industries, and we've had some success. We're hoping to leverage off of that success up to so far, and do bigger and greater things through that. I think with Memsys, I can safely say we're probably at our stellar point, and we need to just push on and make sure we go the extra mile, constantly listen to what the market needs, exploit opportunities that come our way, keep hunting for other opportunities, and yeah, we're about to do amazing things.
Yeah, and I know one of the successes that you've had with Memsys was the system that you built for Kimberley Boys High.
Oh,
Yeah, do you mind sharing on that?
yeah. So we actually we have we're constantly looking for different things and new industries to be involved in. And with COVID-19 coming and teaching and learning moving onto computer screens, we saw an opportunity there, and we quickly jumped on. And we were fortunate enough to come from a school that allowed us to use them as our guinea pigs. So we built an e-learning platform for the school, and basically within, I think, the request, the initial engagement, not really closed down, but I think teaching and learning was resuming. But private schools had already come up with, or found solutions, and they were already moving on to teams and those solutions that they could afford. They had the infrastructure to support, and public schools were being left behind. So I think within a 7-day period, we were able to thrash out a solution for the school, and deploy it. And yeah, that was quite an exciting project. It was nice, completely different industry to what we had been in. We'd been in mining before, we'd been in a few different spaces, but education, this is our first sort of introduction to the education space. And yeah, we were fortunate enough at the same time to also build their website very quickly. So yeah, if you want to see some of our work, yeah, you more than welcome to check out and critique the KHS website.
Well, we should do. What's the URL?
kbhs.co.za.
We're giving them some free
Yeah,
advertising there as
they
well.
can critique us, and yeah, we will take any notes, and yeah, we're open to criticism. Wanga, I think, okay, cool. Sorry,
And for me, that actually speaks, as, am I cutting? Can you hear me?
yeah, good.
Okay, perfect. And I think the work that you did there and are doing, speaks to what we are trying to do, not just obviously with Kimberley, but with the Northern Cape, of bringing all these ideas that we have back home. And that sounds, much easier said than done. And it comes to the part of the conversation that we always touch on is, challenges. So what are some of the challenges that you have found, and why specifically you chose to establish your businesses in Kimberley in the Northern Cape, in terms of the challenges that you're looking to overcome?
Yeah, that's actually quite a good question. I think for us, it's always, strangely enough, I've always known, or we've always spoken about how people in general, professionals and skills are constantly leaving Kimberley and never coming back. And quite early on, I think we were teenagers, my friends and I, when we used to discuss and talk about this thing, that we need to sort of bring these or keep these skills here or come back and make a change, because we see how things are sort of deteriorating, but we need to be part of the solution. And that's fundamentally the key reason why we're back in the Northern Cape, because we want to be part of the solution and the stories that will be told here. Well, another more obvious reason is that there are massive opportunities in the Northern Cape, opportunities that I think most people in the Northern Cape are not aware of, or do not know, or just are not exposed to. And so yeah, it's obviously to come back and make use of those massive opportunities that exist in our backyard. That's why we're back. But in terms of challenges, I must say, having worked in Gauteng and lived in Gauteng for quite some time before coming back home, and being in Katu as well and in Kimberley, you see how different these environments are, and how entrepreneurship is approached. And there's stark differences between what we see there and what we see here at home. And the challenges that we've had to overcome is obviously, in Memsys, for example, I sell a product that oftentimes a client does not know they need. So you need to convince someone that they need to actually spend money with you. And more so in the Northern Cape, where ideas like efficiency and productivity aren't really high on the radar. That's been a big challenge for me in my business. Another one is just sort of access to the right people and opportunities. The Northern Cape, as much as the opportunities are many and they are massive, I think a lot of us as young entrepreneurs find that the opportunities do not make their way or do not trickle down to us, and we struggle to get the information and the access, the right amount or level of access. But that being said, it's not to say we sit back and complain about lack of access. We break the doors down. If after knocking you won't open the door, I'll break the window and climb in, and that's what in the Northern Cape I think our biggest challenge is, and we need to overcome that challenge by climbing in through the window. Don't sit and complain about lack of access.
Yeah, and that also speaks to, everything's just coming back to why we're doing this. In terms of, access, lack thereof, and actually, or access to access. It's that I think we all at some point had the sense that there's this person that you must meet, or these people that you must connect with, and there's a circle you must be a part of. And one of the things that we all try to bring to everyone's attention through Startup Grind is that, guys, we are the circle, because as we grow, as we develop, as we become connected, that network just becomes richer, and we actually realize that we are the ones making the decisions.
Yeah.
And this is something that is actually there from when you're very young, because when you're young you realize that people are looking to you for ideas. And then as you grow older you realize that, oh, I should have done that then. you know but even though you realize that you should have done it back then, now you're in a better position to, I mean, you have the money to you've got the credit
Yeah.
to. And
And
this is the beauty of the discussion around access. I'm sorry, you wanted to say something?
yeah, I just wanted to add to what you're saying, like around that in the Northern Cape, what we found is in other environments, perhaps you could get away with having an awesome elevator pitch or a good slide deck and selling your idea and having people sign an NDA. Whereas here we have the skills, we know what to do, we have solutions. Um, Maybe in this environment, you need to build the solution and display it somewhere, plug it into a school for free, plug it into a government department for them to play around with while you learn and they learn and everyone sees what you're doing. Um, so we need to be flexible in our approach and how we want to access these opportunities. We can't all be waiting to apply for a particular tender or wanting to get into a boardroom with a decision maker. Sometimes you never get into a boardroom with a decision maker. So find other ways to make things happen.
Yeah. And something that's also one of the trends that we have seen is how generally in South Africa, it's found that what makes South Africa so hard to actually fund for international venture capitalists when they come to South Africa, and they like, okay, who should we fund? Where are the businesses? Where's the capital for startups? It's that there's a need actually for us as entrepreneurs and just general South Africa, that we need to shift everyone to understanding of how to turn the access they have into opportunities for other people. So that basically comes from the fact that, yes, you might maybe get that bid, you win the bid, you win the contract, but it's very important for people to actually start formulating their businesses around, let's say, a startup, a business that's easy to scale, a business that you can show that, okay, here are my projections, here are my earnings, we're looking to actually get this much funding, and we actually start having discussions about Series A, Series B funding. So now, having said that, and you yourself having, the challenges of running a tech company in the Northern Cape, right? What opportunities do you think can be created that would be able to put us in a position where we're now competing globally? Because we understand that the world, like, how can I say, the international market actually has an eye on the Northern Cape because of the vast resources here. So how do we basically make ourselves accessible to those opportunities that people are willing to present? What opportunities do you specifically see that we could go for?
Another interesting question. I think for me, what I've always, especially coming into the tech space a few years ago, I'd always everyone in the world knows you want to build a piece of software cheaply, go to India. And if you see what's happened in India with the young people in India, everyone or a lot of people can build a website. People understand lines of code. They do something. This is not some foreign concept or something that everyone needs to go and spend 5 years in university to be able to do. So they've sort of democratized certain key skills. And I think in the Northern Cape, that's the direction we should be moving in. The opportunities that exist currently, and I foresee coming, to move away from the whole 4IR discussion in broad terms, but specifically here. Just the other day, I think the CSIR had announced some great development in their solar tracking systems. So basically, they've done research on solar panels that track the sun, follow the sun. And yet we're in the Northern Cape. We know, obviously, we could be the solar capital of the country. There's opportunities, of Africa, and there's opportunities for us as people, young people from the Northern Cape, to want to participate. And we needn't want to participate in very complex ways from the onset. If you have some exposure to robotics, electronics, go and do N levels in electronics. Now you understand what that solar tracker is doing. Before we even get to a point where we want to be designing it ourselves and selling it ourselves, let's understand how the circuit board works. And that isn't too far-fetched an idea. Enroll at a TVET college and spend a year there. Now this thing is real all of a sudden, and you can now participate. Even in the mining industry, mining is moving into the level of automation that's coming into mining, and what is possible there using technology is there's a lot. It's amazing things and amazing opportunities. But if we don't have the small basic understanding of okay, this is what coding is and this is how it works, or this is what a circuit board is, this is what the Internet of Things is, I can make my curtain open and close from my cell phone. If we are not doing those things as Northern Cape youth, we're not going to be able to put sensors on a piece of machinery on a mine. We're not going to be able to participate when solar farms are tracking the sun in the Northern Cape. We'll be left out in the lurch. So that's what I think. The opportunities are definitely there in tech. Obviously, I mentioned solar and mining, but we need to be able to participate, empower ourselves with just basic skills that enable us to participate when those opportunities arise.
No, definitely. And that's actually in line with one of the initiatives that we want to start later on this year. It's that we've seen, like, when I say we've, I'm speaking about myself. There's been a big push towards tech hubs and those type of spaces. And one of the things that we've actually found is, just because of South Africa's spatial planning and the history, it becomes very hard to even access a tech hub that's in your own community, because you have one tech hub for an entire, let's say maybe township or suburb, and it's just not enough. So we've seen a need to actually get people into the culture of doing things in their backyards, in their garages, and it's actually not that difficult. And this is one of the things that we really want to have people start doing, where it's basically like a virtual tech hub where we're online, everyone is in the space, but then we try to get the components to you, the material, the basic machinery. And from there, we're just sharing to you, like with you, is like, okay, this is step one. This is what you do. This is what you do. Because on the team, and the community that we all part of, I've found that in Kimberley, in Northern Cape, there's just so many talented people, and we need to just start all coming together and making a contribution. Having said that, there's just one more thing I wanted you to touch on, and it's the main reason why we have these sessions is, what does the future hold for Kimberley? What does the future hold for the Northern Cape? Having seen everything, having climbed, summited Kilimanjaro, and being in a tech company, you have a global perspective, right? So what do you feel is the future for Kimberley, just in line also with what you yourself are doing?
Yeah.
When I say Kimberley, I mean the Northern Cape as well.
The Northern Cape. Yeah. I think I'll answer it in two, for both Kimberley and the Northern Cape. It would be very easy for someone to choose to have a very bleak outlook on prospects for youth in Kimberley or the Northern Cape. It is very easy. You don't need to look very hard or far to be able to sort of justify that thinking. But it's thinking that I think we should not really give too much energy to, because there's massive opportunity, as you said. And I think just before I maybe go into what I sort of see just from experience, having done a few things with youth in the Northern Cape and outside the Northern Cape, our youth dreams differently because of the level of exposure they've got, and it's on us to expose as many we're young ourselves, but expose as many younger people to the same sort of things that youth in metros are exposed to, and that's how we'll change things around. And I think we're fortunate in from Kimberley's perspective that we now have a university in town. Just driving around town, seeing the amount of development happening here, it really does give one hope that things are looking up and looking up in a serious way. It's just for all of us to participate. So I think the future for the Northern Cape is really great. The future for the people within the Northern Cape, ourselves as individuals, is only as great as what we're willing to make it. We can sort of sit on the sidelines and watch as mining engineers roll into town from all over the world, and we don't participate, or we can choose to understand the wealth that is in the Northern Cape, and want to be a part of it, whether it could be in any industry really. We just need to be part of it. And for those of us who did leave for school, for corporate, for work, the responsibility is on us to come and make it what it should be and what it could be.
No, definitely. On that note, guys, we did run a bit over schedule. Sorry about that. But we're gonna open up the floor for some questions for the next 10 minutes. Yeah, feel free if you have any questions. I'm also gonna check the chat. Please, guys. Let me see. How do we? Okay, it's just the sound. So if you have any questions, please do feel free to ask. If not, I've got a couple. So I'll just try to throw them in between the questions that our guests have. Are there any questions, guys?
This talk was so boring. There aren't any questions, Wanga.
No, I think it's because you answered all their questions. No, that's why. Okay, so for me, just a bit of I think it's a general question. Kimberley or Kat?
Okay, Kimberley or Katu?
And why?
Okay.
spot.
Okay, so I'm currently doing business in both Kimberley and Katu. No brainer for any entrepreneur looking to make things happen. Definitely Katu. There's just massive opportunities. So for those of you who haven't been, it's an awesome environment. It's obviously a very small mining town, very old school type, like your Coffee Fontaine type of town where it's small. Everyone who's there works on a mine or for a mining contractor, very much the same. Only these are highly paid professionals from all parts of the country, if not the world, and in similar or the same industry. So that presents massive opportunities for us as entrepreneurs, not only servicing their employers or their businesses, but also servicing skilled individuals working in that small town. So definitely Katu. And another thing for Katu, I think I speak under correction. Anglo might have started doing work on a site that's got a 70-year lifespan or something like that. I know it's a 70-year lifespan on his site that they're pouring tons of money into. So there'll be money for a while. There'll be money for a while there.
Okay. We have a question from Keenan. He says, what's your thoughts on payment methods?
Okay.
Let me just check.
So
Keenan, do you want to maybe jump in and elaborate on it? Unmute you.
I think his mic is still muted.
Okay, he's unmuted. Hey, Keenan.
Hi, Keenan. Should I maybe give it a shot on my own before?
Yeah, I think let's do that.
Okay, so I'm assuming maybe you're talking if you're in a client-facing environment. Just from experience, I'll tell you what tools we've used in our businesses. So for both our client-facing businesses, we got ourselves Yoko devices. They were quite inexpensive. We got them quite early on, so they like first or second gen. A bit outdated now, but I see the new machines, the new devices they've got are quite cool. The nice thing that I've found about Yoko, or a solution we've actually implemented at one of our clients, a website client, was that you can actually run or receive online payments through the Yoko payment. They basically launched the payment gateway. So whereas in the past you would have a Yoko device that's linked to your bank, you'd have to go to like a pay fast for a payment gateway. For a small business, Yoko sort of solves that problem. You have one person to talk to for your business, for your in-person sales, as well as if you have an online store to take payments and accept payments online. So yeah, I'm a Yoko guy. But if you're not talking in terms of that, then I think the other devices that I've seen on the market are equally as good. The only benefit is the payment gateway. If you're strictly looking for a payment gateway, I think the most probably the older and more reliable one that's been around for the longest is probably PayFast. Although there are other players in the market, but generally, if you're looking for strictly payment gateway, PayFast is a good way to go.
Yeah, Keenan, I hope that answers your question, and now you know how to get paid. I see there aren't any other questions. Okay, cool. So we're just going to close off the session. Before we do, any last words, the words that everyone can remember you by. We definitely going to remember you by the talk on Kilimanjaro and peak and summiting the peak. But just any last words you'd like to share with everyone that's tuned in.
Okay, no, I think just from my side, I'm really grateful for the opportunity to talk to like-minded people. We don't get to do it often in this way. We're often collaborating on particular projects, or it's very specific talk. So it's nice to be able to talk freely amongst other entrepreneurs. And yeah, I hope to meet many of people who are here actually in circles in Kimberley, business circles in Kimberley. And yeah, I really appreciate the invitation, Wanga. I'm really grateful for it. And yeah, there's amazing things happening in the Northern Cape. We just need to be there to access those opportunities and make those opportunities happen for ourselves.
No, definitely. One last thing. So your details. Wait, this is where you can sell yourself. What you do best.
Okay, so if anyone is more than welcome to get a hold of me, one of my business's email or websites is memsys.co.za. So it's memsys.co.za. There, I think you'll find my cell number, but my email is tumelo@memsys.co.za. I'm happy to assist wherever I can. And if you've got any opportunities in the tech space, or if you've got any app ideas that you want to try out in a cheap way, you can reach out and we can do some work together. And yeah, in terms of other businesses, obviously we've got Afrikan Time that we're busy with. So be on the lookout on social media for Afrikan Time. It's African with a K Time on Facebook and Instagram. You'll see it's dormant at the moment. As I've explained, we will be kickstarting that again this year. Yeah, once you've got a hold of me, you'll see all the other crazy projects. I can't go through the whole list, but yeah, please do reach out for any opportunities in tech, in fashion. But I think the key focus is opportunities and opportunities to collaborate in tech through Memsys. Would really be keen to follow that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Tumelo, really appreciate it. Guys, thank you everyone for joining in. I also wanted to say that the community is growing in terms of us being more active. If you really want to reach out to anyone part of Startup Grind Kimberley, if you've got any ideas to share, I'm just sharing my email address. It's wanga.mbasa@startupgrind .com, right? That's the first thing. I know, I can see from the people on there, there's Brian there with their business that Brian, you might be the next one we'll be speaking to. But if you also do need advice regarding starting up businesses, um, please also feel free to reach out if you need help building a website. We're here to assist you. If you need help doing a design, if you have an idea, pitch decks, any of that, we're going to actually start creating more of that type of content and also make it more available for you guys from about March. We're obviously just gathering ourselves for the year, but so far, thanks guys for joining us. Tumelo, thank you once again. We really appreciate your time, and we thank you and the Memsys team for the work that you're doing in Kimberley and the Northern Cape. And this is just the first of many collaborations. And yeah, guys, thanks again everyone for tuning in, and feel free to get in touch. We are more than willing to assist you with your startup. Okay. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Cheers.